lot of people have different opinions about demand generation, then it's demand creation, then we call it different names. But what's most important is we start with closing the existing demand in the market. So those are the people who actually have a specific problem that we have a solution for. We start from them, and then we move on to maybe some others who are not aware or are not ready yet to buy or don't know about us.
What is demand generation marketing, and what's a solid strategy to drive pipeline and revenue from your demand gen? Welcome back to a fresh episode of Breaking B2B.com. I'm your host, Sam Dunning. Nemanja, welcome to the show. Nemanja is the founder over at Funky Marketing. We're going to be chatting through all things demand generation so you can nail down your demand generation strategy for your B2B tech, SaaS or service company. And Nemanja is going to share some slightly different, slightly lesser known, slightly unusual plays that you might not have considered to build demand for your business, turn that into leads, signups, sales calls, or pipeline. And we can talk about things like how important demand generation is today, what strategies are actually working that you can tactically put into play as a founder, as a marketer for your business, breaking them down as we always do with a bit of step by step and having a bit of a back and forth. So first and foremost, Nemanja, how important is demand generation compared to other go-to-market strategies right now for B2B and SaaS companies?
Well, I'd say it's essential, right? It's one part of the coin. So we start with closing the demand. So I call demand generation actually closing the demand, just to kind of let that out. And then, if it's not enough, then we start creating demand, creating the awareness, the brand, and all other side of it. Now we can do it in a lot of different ways, and especially today, a lot of people have different opinions about demand generation. Then it's demand creation. Then we call it different names. But what's most important is we start with closing the existing demand in the market. So those are the people who actually have a specific problem that we have a solution for. We start from them, and then we move on to maybe some others who are not aware or are not ready yet to buy or don't know about us.
Okay. So talk us through that then. For someone because I know so many people have a definition of what demand generation means, and it sounds like to you, closing the demand is what it really means. But talk us through what that actually means in a tangible way for folks that might not have heard the saying before.
Yeah, let's look at it. Everybody knows that fact that B2B LinkedIn Institute said, I think a year and a half or 2 years ago, that like 95% of the B2B customers are not in the market to buy right now. I would say it's a little bit more. Less than 2% of them from actually working with companies and from the practice, I know the fact, are at the market to buy now. Meaning, talking about B2B products who have long sales cycles and high ACV, high average annual contracts. So it's expensive things to buy. It takes longer because it talks about, on my episode, we talk about jobs to be done, right? You are actually not selling to a person, you are selling to a group of people that all have their jobs they need to do, and you actually need to know the problem, and through your content, through your product, your service, whatever it is you're selling, you need to help them actually solve their problems, right? Sometimes it's the CFO needs to make a decision about investment, about the money. It's the CEO who oversees it and said we finally need to solve that specific problem, or it's the CTO or CMO, however do we call it. And there are also people who are working with you, right, who will actually use the product or work with you as a vendor, however it is, that need to recognize you. So you need to impact that decision making from a lot of different points. And when the time comes for the company, for example, let's talk like you're selling to the CTO. So like the CTO wakes up one day and say, finally, we need to solve that specific problem, right? And it goes I've been looking for this to solve this, but we didn't have money, we didn't have resources. Now we have a little bit of money, and that problem is really itching us. So he said, for example, I don't know, John, can you go and find me 3 best products over there that will help us solve that specific problem? So John goes on Google, writes in, finds a couple of lists, and so these are the 3 companies. So it brings it down to the CTO, and CTO says, okay, we're going to choose one in a couple of months. Mm-hmm. If that didn't work out, he said, okay, so why did we choose this company? They are made for working with bigger or smaller companies or different kind of companies or different niche inside the industry. So who's the one who recommended it? John, what happened, man? Why did you recommend us that company? He said, you tell me to get you the 3 best. That's what I did. So go out to Google, check it out, and you will see it for yourself. So John was protecting his ass, to talk about frankly. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of biases inside each position. Everybody protects their jobs, those kind of things. But what can we do to actually avoid all these things, to be on top of mind of the CTO before he makes a decision to go? Which means we need to create a real estate in his heart and mind, how we poetically say that, which means that we need to create awareness, create a brand, and create a relationship with that person or with the people from the team, however it is. And we'll talk about that later, but let's say we didn't influence the decision making before it happened. So they have a list of couple of companies. Yep. Maybe they gathered it, they found it on Google, they got an advice from, from a friend or fellow CEO or whoever it is. So they have like 3 to 5 companies. When they have that, what they do, they usually go and do the research, meaning they first go to Google, right? They Google them and they see, okay, I see those are kind of those companies. What are they writing about? What's their positioning, messaging, everything that's on the website. Through SEO, they are communicating for which kind of companies they are. Do they have enough experience? Do they have the features that we need? All those specific things. Then they say, okay, let's see. And if they're, if they have, perfect. Now we go to, for example, LinkedIn or wherever it is, the platform, to check out if they have enough experience for us, right? And only then they reach out to you. So you find out then only after this process is done. So it doesn't have to be just Google. I'm saying Google, but it can be like, Microsoft Azure, or it can be Amazon, Marketplace. There are different places they go.
Paid review sites.
Yeah. You have no idea that this thing is happening in the background, right? Unless you talk to the customers. That's how you find out how they are actually buying and how's the process going. So this is where you need to have and be present with what we talk about. It's the middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content, and you need to communicate why you are the right choice for those companies now. And not only that, but why are you one of the 3 choices that they need to spend money on that year, even on a bigger scale, right? Because in B2B, we already said it's expensive products. Sometimes it happens that you invest in those products once in 5 years. There, I don't know, for example, some products for the factories. You open a factory once in 5 years, then you sell to them, and in 5 years, they come back to you to buy again. So it means during those 5 years, you need to be present, create a relationship, be there. So in 5 years, maybe it's a different person, but they need to choose you again, right? So that's from that perspective. But if you look at, go back and, maybe you want to avoid all of this. What you need to do, then you need to go and create demand, meaning you don't influence creating the demand. The company needs to, to know that, okay, we have this problem, we need to solve it when it's the right time. You need to just be there in the right time. And you don't do that by posting content now or communicating now or doing the ads now and I'm going to influence the decision making. It's going to happen, and I'm going to close 50 million deal in a week. It doesn't happen. So what you are doing now, you will see the results in a couple of months. And to be able to do that, you need to know how decisions are being made. Okay, we said one part of it. Another part of it is how do you get on the list, right? So you need, when I want to buy something in B2B, I first go to the small communities that we have now, right? So I go and I ask, I have 10 people that I know and trust over there. Then I go to social, and maybe I will have a post and get the feedback, or I will pick up the phone and call, for example, you, Sam, and say, hey man, you are working with, you also have a podcast. Maybe you can recommend me the best tool to, I don't know, chop up the smaller clips, for example, or something like that. But I will ask somebody who is my peers, maybe more experienced than I, to give me a recommendation. Marketing's job is to be there, and so their name appears when those conversations happen. Meaning, it has a job to facilitate the sales process and communicate our unique advantage. And if that things happen, customers will come to us inbound on their own, come to the website and say, I want to buy. When they say I want to buy, this is the moment when they are ready, and this is the moment when we involve the sales, right? Until that moment, we don't want to involve sales because they don't want to talk to sales, right? They want to do their research. They want to find out information, maybe listen to the podcast, read articles, communicate with us on social, see how other companies are thinking about us, all these things. But then sales has an easy job to just convert the demand, right? That is already out there. And by doing that, they are not wasting time on talking to 200, 300 leads, which is extremely expensive. And when you have that many leads, and when leads are your target, right, you go and add more. So then you need to have more salespeople. Not everybody are experienced, not everybody are good in what they do. But if you do it like I described, sales can actually go and do the outbound, do the outreach, talk to the people in different way, and you are already creating the awareness, the brand, so it's much easier for them to communicate. And in that way, there's an alignment inside the company, right? Because the two things are talking about. Sales is not saying marketing is giving us the shitty leads again, but instead you are actually having the symbiosis of everything. And what is, this is the final thing that I'm going to say, what is the unique advantage that the company can have, especially B2B SaaS these days, is the clear and simple onboarding process, and how people find you, convert, get the product, try it, and actually buy. So in that way, by doing that, you are actually differentiating from the others and making it more easy for the others to buy from you.
Are you tired of competitors ranking above you on Google, stealing traffic, leads, and mindshare from dream clients every time they're searching for your services or offers on Google? At Breaking B2B, we fix that with our unusual approach to SEO, content marketing, and websites. We craft B2B SEO strategies and websites for revenue, not vanity. Head over to breakingb2b.com to check our results, pricing, or to book a call with me. A lot to unpack, but I appreciate there's a lot we've covered there, Nemanja. So great start. We talked about demand capture. We've talked about creating demands. We're essentially saying basically that doesn't really matter the audience that you serve. No more than 2, 3, maybe a little bit more % are going to be at one time in market for your offer. So actively searching for your solution on Google, going to paid review sites, or going to whatever, whether it's a search engine or elsewhere, that they'd go to when they're ready to, I don't know, sign up, book a demo, speak to a salesperson. So as well as that, you should be considering creating demand. So building mindshare. I think I've heard this saying from Pep Laya or maybe someone else, creating mental availability.
Yeah, that's a common thing these days to say.
Within your prospect's mind. So I suppose when they associate certain problems that you might solve, they think of your offer, or when they need a certain service or solution, they think your offer comes to mind. So there's a lot to break down, and I love the point, because I speak to this a lot as well, that the fact that when you are providing a higher value solution, service, or piece of software, it's not one person buying it. There's several people involved in that committee, and it's not like a click of the fingers decision. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of valuation, and if you can get ahead of that curve, it's going to help you so much by being familiar, already being trusted, and already being at the top of the list. So almost getting a bit of a cheat code to being top choice. So with that said, where we are now, should B2B, should SaaS companies, should they still start, in your opinion, so we probably disagree on this, should companies start with capturing that demand, so the folks that are already searching for the solution but might not have a brand top choice, or should they start with trying to kind of create awareness, create affinity, and building demand?
Yes, so there are two things, and two answers, right? The first one is, if you are creating a totally new product that doesn't exist anymore, it's not something that you are solving the same problem, but you found a problem that other people aren't solving. So in that case, there is no demand to close. Right, so you need to first start creating the conversations around that topic, and go and do something differently. I usually like to use the example of Drift back in the days, when they basically start organizing like offline events, dinners for product people, for executive, and listening what they were saying. And they were saying a lot of stuff. I have a problem with this. And they found out, okay, so they don't like forms on the website, right? So how do we call it nicely so we can actually create conversation around it? We call it conversational marketing, right? So what can we do to actually empower that and make people actually go and search for it? We write a book. So, and also we create a podcast where we talk about all these things. We use social media like Twitter at the time. We empower our team to talk about it on LinkedIn. And then you have different voices, evangelism, basically conversational marketing, right? And it doesn't create only the thing for you. It also empowers others in the space, right? It's not something that you alone can do, but you need to involve other companies as well. So from that perspective, because if you do the customer research and you ask people, to give you feedback on what you want to sell, if they don't know that something exists, they cannot actually give you the information, right? And if you don't solve the problem, you leave them with the existing solutions that didn't solve the problem, well, they will be pissed off at you, right? So you will have to deal with that as well. But on the other hand, what I suggest to everybody, because like if you look at the biggest companies out there, they started from the existing problem, right? And it's much easier to go into the audience that already has the existing problem. Maybe you just have the better solution, right? Or you go into the smaller niche when you have a simpler solution for them and start from that place. So that's where I would always go, instead of, chasing how do we call it, unicorns, and coming up with the category creation and those kind of things. I would start from the existing problems that I can solve and that resonates with, how do I call it, like when I look at the potential market, I like to say, as small as the market that we can own 30% of in like 6 months. That's how small I want to get if I can, right? Meaning you talk to 200 people, right? You don't need to talk to that many people. Those are like 200 people that you want to talk to, show your content to, show your offer to, create relationships with, whatever it is. So they know that you are the solution, right? And you want to have at least, how do we call it? Marquee customer, you scrape your way into that. So there are no specific ways how you can do it. You try different things to get that customer, because that one customer that everybody on the market knows will open the doors for you for the others to come. Meaning they're choosing between solving a specific problem that bothers them for a long time, or trusting you. You are solving the problem, and then you are working with that company that they know and trust. So it eliminates that, and that's where you start with. So when you build and you actually, be on top of the market, owning 30% of the niche means that you own the niche, right? So when you go there, basically you start with that and you build from there. So you not go with, I need to have like 40,000 people reaching with my ads, with my content, but with 200.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a few considerations. I see some nice feedback for those tuning in live from Amy and Katie enjoying the conversation. So I appreciate everyone tuning in if you are on the live. But yeah, so we're talking about a few things. So you mentioned if you're a new category, if your solution, if your offering is perhaps something that your target prospects don't actually know exists, so they're not searching for it, they're not comparing it, they're not looking for it, then you have to kind of talk to your customers, understand, like the drift example you gave, understand what is their problem, understanding this solution is actually worth building out, and then realizing how you can build awareness around it, bring it to market, strike up conversations and start driving revenue that way. And then eventually, once demand is created, you might be able to use mechanisms like SEO, paid search, review sites, and all the rest of it. Whereas probably the smarter way is to look for a maybe untapped niche within your category, within your solution, for maybe a more mature market, aka a solution that people already knows exists. And then they might be searching Google for it. They might be going to review sites. They might be going to other ways to find it. That's probably makes more sense. So
do we agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, naturally, I sell SEO, right? I provide SEO. That's my main offer. So I'm going to tell people that demand capture is the way. But I think we're of a similar mindset. I say the same. I say, look, SEO is a waste of your time if you're a new category. Like if you're selling something that people aren't searching for, like you're way better off realizing talking to your target customers, talking to target prospects, where do they spend their time? Where are their trustworthy sources? Are they listening to a specific podcast? Great, pay for ad space there, or get your founder interviewed there. Are they tuning into are they reading a certain newsletter? Get ad space there, or get a feature there. Are they going to a specific event? Get your ass there. Do not waste your money or time on SEO. Please find out where your target prospects are hanging out now, and then consider SEO maybe more of an education piece over time. And then once there's more demand around your offer, yes, go full steam on it, go full steam on paid search. But right now, if folks are already in different places, get your resource there and then go for it, and maybe build out an outbound strategy as well, where you can kind of lay out the problems you fix and start garnering interest.
And it's actually, it takes time to create the brand, the awareness. You can cheat on it, kind of like we did with Funky Marketing, creating like Funky Marketing top voices list and those kind of things with the people who have the authority. So they, we look like we have a brand. We're nearly close to having a brand even now, like 4.5 years later, right? But it looked like that, and people call us. I come to the meeting, they say, I told you, like the marketer to the CMO, like they are the big boys in the community. People look at it as the bigger one. And that's usually what happens, on social when people are not already indicated. But there is one thing that I want to share, and I think it's important to know, because you see people do that all the time. They try to close the demand before they know how they are different. Right. And usually I will give a specific example. We look at LinkedIn. So they try to use LinkedIn ads, right? Usually when companies go to LinkedIn ads, they say, okay, we're going to do lead gen ads. Right, have a ebook, whatever it is, convert, 10, 50 people, download it, and then we're going to pitch them. Right, but the thing is, if they don't know how they are different, and I'm talking different in many, it can be many different aspects, but I'll use an example. They don't look different. They look up to the bigger companies So they have like the website in the same color as the bigger player, right? The bigger players usually have like blue color on the website, for example, because they are big. It says safety, trust, education, whatever it is. And if you the ads in the same color and you have the website in the same color and you don't have a brand, but you are trying to close the demand, what you are actually using, you will evangelize more people to know about your competitors, then you will close the demand, right? A lot of people forget about that specific things because they see blue and you talk about the same topics, right? And you talk about the same problem. So they will go to Google, look for it, and find the bigger company. And so that happens a lot. And I realized I didn't talk about that as much, and I don't see anybody else talking about it, and it's important.
Big fan of differentiation, and I think a lot of B2B, a lot of SaaS companies are scared stiff to stand out. I think you and I are in a fortunate space in the sense that we both run small businesses. We're both founders. So we can we don't have an exec team telling us what we can and can't do. We can do what we want. Like, for example, my website headline is B2B SEO for revenue, not vanity. And we did that for a reason, because customers were telling me their agencies are promising the world, promising all this traffic, but it's not converting into demos. And I said, well, let's do the opposite and let's relay that in our messaging. And I'm sure you're much the same with your tactics. Like, we can pretty much try and test what we want based on what the market, what prospects, what customers tell us.
We can be fast and iterate.
We can stand against the giants that we maybe don't agree with, and we can kind of post our hot takes. It gets a bit harder when you go into larger enterprises. There's a lot more red tape, but like you say, you've got to stand out. If you're a small fish in a big pond, you've got to pick a niche. You've got to pick industries that are maybe underserved. And you've got to stand for something if you want to get that initial mind share, get that mental availability, get remembered by your prospects.
Because if you're trying to get people to go and look for you, you're trying to educate them. Make sure that you educate them in a way that they go and look for you, not for the problem or something like that, because that's not where you will win. That's where your competitors are winning.
Let's start with that then. Let's for folks that are tuning in, listening, watching, and thinking, I want target clients to start looking for me, and got to build some affinity around my brand. So when they think of this offer or this problem, they look for us directly. Like, what are some of the first steps if folks want to build a bit of a demand gen engine and start being the first choice in their prospect's mind? What are some of the first things they should consider?
Yeah, let's go quickly step by step. So before you do anything, you need to know how you position yourself, how you communicate that positioning, differentiation well. How do you get those things to know? You talk to your customers, right? Existing one and the ones that you lost, and you ask them, how would you call our product or our service? How would you look for it? Where do you go to get educated? Is it the same place where you will go when you want to buy? If you have to buy again our product or the service because you are talking to existing customers, would you do the same as you did before? And you, of course, ask them what did they do. The goal, or also like, who are you following on social, on LinkedIn? Which newsletters are you reading? Who are you following on YouTube? Which podcasts are interest of you? So you want to create a clear picture to know exactly how customers are coming to buy from you, right? We said one thing before, and this marketing has a goal to facilitate the buying process. So you need to know exactly the steps they are doing to get there. And you need to give them exactly enough in each step so they go to the next step, not too much. We mentioned that they don't want to talk to sales. They want to do different stuff. For example, like, you give them an article to read, and inside that article, you give them a resource, meaning a checklist. Like, for example, the article is about how to create the best landing page, right? For example, and the resource might be 5 things to do now to create the best landing page. So you know that they are ready for the next step, right? And you go and then you serve them the next step. If they are not ready, not clicking on that, they are not ready. So important thing is to follow in which stage they are, how they are going. But the thing is, it's always getting messy. We told about it. The process is not linear. They might listen to this podcast now, read this article. They might download the resource as well, and then say, I just wanted to get it and do it on my own. And then they reach out after a couple of months. So the thing is that when you know all these things, so you know the platform which they are using, you know whom they are following, you know how the buying process goes, so you can actually create a strategy around it. What I say previously, you need to have a strategic narrative, a story of your company that you actually know who you are and who you are targeting. Then you go to the strategy and start creating content strategy and all these things. So important thing is, okay, for example, we choose LinkedIn as a platform. Let's say that's a place where we go. When we go to LinkedIn, we need to know who are the people that our audience trust and follow. So we try to see how we can work with those people. To give you an example, I recently had it was a conversation, creating something, whatever it is, with Wix, for example.
Okay.
And, they are B2C. Everybody knows them as B2C tool, right? But in the background, they've been creating B2B content product for the enterprise companies. And it's already existing, they're already using, but nobody knows that they are B2B content, enterprise level. So what they say, okay, who is our target audience? Our target audience is our marketers, right? Those that lead marketing teams inside, corporations. So what we're going to do, we ask, marketers, who are they following, what's happening, did our own research. So they reach out and they say, okay, we want to do influencer marketing. We want to involve different marketers to talk about us, about use our tool, talk about our tool, and go to do different things. So we want to slowly create the awareness through that, right? And be on top of mind. That's all that they can do. Then I told them, okay, what if we can do the next thing as well? So first we create, it can be a top list, top 10 marketers by Wix. What do we call it? So, and we have some target accounts, and then we have some influencers, a mix of people. So we create slowly relationships with them and we involve them. It becomes an account-based marketing strategy, right? From the awareness, we take them to the middle of the funnel. When we already talk about them using the tool, we involve, for example, like some leaders, head of the product, CMO, so they can get familiar with the people from the company. Then after that phase, so now we create the awareness, we have relationship with those people. What can we do? Well, maybe we can do 2 webinars that will explain how the product actually works. So we can go tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 are ideal clients. Tier 2 are maybe the people we mentioned that they are, a group of people inside the company, buying committee, how we call them, that can influence the decision making from a different perspective. So we have tier 1, tier 2. We explain those things. So we then watch who's reacting to those videos. Not saying pitching right away the people who were on webinars, but looking if they are watching the video, if they are opening the emails. If they are, then we call them right away, right? So that can be like one way to do it. Other way can be, go through the founders of the company, through the leadership. Then we have them active on LinkedIn. They share thought leadership content. Then we have a company page where we share how we actually solve the specific problem. And then people who are, for example, not leadership, but they're marketers, sales, product people, personalize those posts. So we solve the problem that way. Here's from my perspective, how does it look like? So inside their own expertise, they share how they do it. And it creates, we started calling them surround sound, right? We have the company page, which is like umbrella. And then we have people from the company who actually holds the umbrella so you don't get soaking wet on the rain. And and those people, actually employees of the company, actually create the surround sound of the company, and it matters a lot. It can get very easy in millions. So imagine having different conversations. You come to LinkedIn, you see, that man from the company. Tomorrow you see another one. Day after, you get notification that the third one is also on a, I don't know, live streaming on an event. The fourth day, you see the head of brand talking about hiring somebody from LinkedIn. And you feel like they're everywhere. You don't actually have a choice. At one moment, you feel like you don't have a choice. I'm using that one example is the Sam Rush that I'm talking about.
Right.
So like at one moment you feel like you don't have a choice.
They're going big on brand at the moment, aren't they, on LinkedIn? Big time. But Wix is a good example as well. Wix used to have a really bad rep, as that their websites weren't great for SEO.
Exactly.
So they basically got in touch with a bunch of SEO influencers, started getting them to ship out a load of content in partnership on channels like LinkedIn, YouTube. Now I think they sponsor a bunch of SEO specific podcasts, and they've basically slowly, gradually chipped away at having that terrible reputation to now thinking, oh, Wix is actually okay.
Let me tell you what else they are doing. While doing that, they are now having planning the product launch of that thing, but also they started organizing events in London, in the US, in Australia. So offline executive dinners. Remember we said how Drift did it. So they connect offline with the online, with influencer marketing, with partners. And of course they have the B2C aspect of it, which is on Instagram mainly, TikTok, whatever it is. And now when you see that, it creates like lava effect. They are everywhere, including also the podcast and those kind of things. And that's exactly what you want to create. So, when somebody feels, okay, I need a website, they go and they look for Wix. They don't look for anybody else. Or they go and look for SEMrush. They don't look for anybody else. And usually how we track that, now that's, I think, the essential part. How do we track the content creation? We have these two lines that we create. So we talk about closing demand and creating demand, right? Closing demand, it goes through CRM, it goes through Google Analytics. Then you can actually see, okay, it's coming from LinkedIn, it's coming from Slack, it's coming from YouTube. We can see those things. And it's very indicated because like they are looking at the last touch attribution, mostly multi-touch attribution is flown in all kind of ways, but it gives us the quantitative way of measuring things. So that many people came from this platform. They did this. But if we add, it's mind-blowing how simple it is, right? We add a self-reported attribution form on the website. And we said that those, I usually like to use 2 fields. And we say that they are a must for somebody to fill in. We don't have predicting answers. So they need to have a blank piece of, space, and they write. When we ask them, I usually ask them, how did you hear about us? And why do you want to work with us? So first one usually says, they will give us, for example, like this podcast. They heard it on a podcast. They heard it on LinkedIn. They heard it somebody else. Or they can say, I heard it, I saw the post inside our community, right? Somebody saw this video and posted it in a company Slack. And they watched it, and maybe in 2 months or 3 months, wherever, the demand got to that far and the problem got really big, they reached out. So they knew who they're going to reach out. It just took time. On the other hand, why do you want to work with us? That's kind of an interesting thing. And on the first one and second one, I usually get like Nemanja jumps out of Pate on LinkedIn. I got Nemanja out of LinkedIn. So they use the same words that I'm using. Or they say, I'm following what you guys are doing on LinkedIn and in a B2B space. I'm in industrial space. Nobody does what you guys are doing. Everything is boring, it's dull, and I want to try something else, and that's enough for me to have a conversation with you. Or they say, I don't know, like, why do you reach out to us? They say, like, Peplaya recommended you, for example, or Refine Labs referred you. But then when I say, why do you want to work with us? they say, well, when Pep Lyle recommends you, I listen, so you see which authorities are also referring to you, because people who will react on your posts, those are usually your peers, and they will recommend it. They won't buy from you. But those who will buy from you are those who you get referred to, or those people who are never reacting to anything. They are just watching, observing, and when the time comes, they say, "Hey, Nemanja, I've been following you for 3 years," and it's the time that it happens. And also, let's say what happens if the deal doesn't go through. You think that deal is lost. So you focus on something else. You stop posting on social. You stop doing the things that you're doing. And nothing will happen, but because people will keep coming through Google, which are not ideal, looking for the lower price, looking for different things. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you are also talking to the customers who are potentially lost, but can be gained again, to come back to you. Maybe you don't know what happened. I just had a situation when a guy reached out to me. I sent him a form in February. He came now, and he said, "Oh, a lot of things happened. I moved to Valencia. A lot of things happened." And he reached out. "I need a fractional CMO." Right. So those kind of things happen. Somebody reached out to me after 4 years, and also to those deals that fell through. What you can do, you can increase the lifetime value of those deals through the content. Meaning, if you talk about, hey, specific things, I work with that company, I sold them this product, this is how they used it, or how we help them solve specific problem through our services. People are following you, especially the leaders, if you are active. So they, one leader of the company is following another, always happening, especially if you using their product. And then they will say, hey, is there maybe something that we can work on additionally? Can you help us with that as well? Can your product, if we buy like the premium package, can it also solve that problem for us that is solved for this company? Because usually, as we talk about on your episode on my podcast, is companies like to look up to the similar companies from the industry. When they see, okay, you help that company. I know that, I know that company, I know the leader, and I know that then you can help us as well.
Yeah. Some good points. One thing that I want to dive into quick is you've given some great examples. So you mentioned kind of the strategy that Wix have been working on. For any marketers that are perhaps tuning in, or solo founders that are thinking, that all sounds great and I understand, but these are mammoth, huge software companies. Which of this can I implement myself as perhaps a smaller business or marketing team of 1, 2, or kind of a small little team?
Let me tell you, Wix came to me inbound. And I'm one-person company at the moment. So you can do it. You just need to know who you are targeting. And I'm somebody who has been working with startups before. Now I'm moving up market, mid-sized companies, and maybe enterprise level companies who are coming like Wix from B2C, moving to B2B, and need help with understanding B2B and the context and how it works, and those kind of things. So important thing is that you know exactly who you are talking to and not getting out of it. So usually what I say, let's say you focus on LinkedIn. So that's the simplest as it can be. So focus on creating content for LinkedIn, as simple as possible. You know what you are doing, go ahead and write over there. First, write about what you are selling, a product or a service. Write everything about it, which features it has, how does it work, everything. Then the second tier should be usually things that you talk about, how do we say, have you helped somebody reach the promised land? Who are those people? Can you share me the examples? So you go with testimonials, with case studies, success stories to show how other companies like those that you are targeting, solve their problems. Then you go, what you want to talk about more is your experience, right? Or experience of your team if you're creating a product, right? So you'd want to know that the right people are working on that. So you need to know their experience, stories, however it goes. Then you want to go further, and maybe you want to add something that's personal. For example, I don't know, we talked about soccer at the beginning of the episode. Then I can say I like to read comics. I like to read epic fantasy books. Then I play basketball. I go on Twitter and I talk about NBA, those kind of things. So you want to have that small note that people can connect you with. So then it's more than business. It's more than business, and you can go more in depth about the business topics because you understand each other on a deeper level. It can be, I don't know, the example comes to mind. A guy that is working with me on a lot of stuff, doing LinkedIn education with me, Dan Pataki, he has a podcast with his wife, Rare and Share, about the rare diseases, because their son had a disease, now he doesn't have, but they like to do evangelism for that topic. And and he talked about parenthood and kids and those kind of things, and it's like not even the 20% of the content he talks about, right? 80% is still the services he offers, the product, whatever it is. So that's how you go. If you want to make it more simple, then that might be too complicated for somebody. Past, present, and the future. Past is what happened until now. You have stories, books that you read, last work experiences, campaigns that you ran, whatever it is. You have present time, meaning what you do day to day. Outcomes from the meetings, conclusions, things that you consume right now. And then you have the future, it is your point of view. So meaning you get up in the air and you look at everything that's happening with your experience, with your knowledge, and with what we already mentioned with positioning, messaging, you know who you are targeting. So you see some things others don't see. If not, why are you there at all? So let's assume that you know that. So when you are above everybody else, you can connect the dots and see the paths that others don't see. And it should make you angry, right? Frustrated that others don't see it. And that should give you the strength, because like those point of view, or I call it future posts, will be sometimes rants. Sometimes you will help others connect the dots and educate them. Sometimes you will share examples, whatever it is, but you need to figure out the way, and you figure it out by talking to the customers, how they want to consume those things and what is the best way that you explain it to them. Now, that is something that is called content platform fit, and it takes for 12 months to 2 years to do it. So I always suggest go all in, share different types of content in a different way, but talk about the same things, and you will get as fast as possible to that. Then you optimize, then you automate, and then you move on to the next target audience, or you to the next feature.
Some great stuff shared. And I think some of the crux of this is, like I talk about a lot, I think you're of a similar mindset, like really understanding if you want to do a lot of this, if you want to create awareness with the target prospects that you actually want to be selling to, you've got to do the hard miles beforehand. You've got to understand where they're getting their trusted information, where they are. In B2B, yeah, a lot of that's LinkedIn, but then who are they listening to on LinkedIn? Like you mentioned at the start of this episode, like what are the influencers they trust? Does LinkedIn actually make sense in this situation, or should we try and go on specific podcasts or get involved in newsletters or get involved in trade shows? And then what you mentioned there, educating the market and getting involved in, like you said, whether that's sharing stories or sharing examples or talking about the product. I think where a lot of folks go wrong on LinkedIn, and I did, but in the past, is not actually integrating the product into my posts, or integrating, in my case, our service or offer, or talking about our company. And because it's all good and well that I've seen, like sharing stories and sharing examples, but you do need to make sure you link it to your product, or you link it to your offer, so that availability is there, whether that's just weaving in your brand name or sharing an example, like saying, like, head to our website to learn more about this topic, or giving a use case of the product, weaving that in so folks can then kind of connect with you on a deeper level. Yes, you're grabbing their attention initially, and then you're saying, look, this is how our product weaves in. So I think that's something that sometimes gets forgotten a bit when folks, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, are going super hard trying to get as many views or as many click-throughs or as many likes and comments as they want. But really, if it doesn't link back to your product, then it's not going to be as worthwhile as you're probably hoping.
That's what you and I talked about already, about the middle of the funnel, right? Because people are extreme. We either sell, or we educate until we die.
Yeah,
and we need to find the middle ground.
Definitely, man. Well, look, I know we're coming up to time, and I appreciate you sharing kind of real tactical examples. I know you and I could probably talk about this stuff for hours on end, and I'm sure we'll do another episode in the months to come. So with that, Nemanja, please do tell our listeners, our watchers, more about how they can learn from you, connect with you, and the best way to get in touch.
Yeah, the best way is LinkedIn or funkymarketing.net, or just look for Nemanja Zivkovic or Funky Marketing anywhere. So Funky Marketing Podcast or YouTube or any other platform. Just, I think Google is the right source these days. Or what's interesting, I also got the request coming in from ChatGPT, the first one. Somebody found Funky Marketing on ChatGPT. So, as we talked about, like SEO does its thing in the background, we just connect the dots as we should.
The AI takeover is coming, sir. Good stuff. Well, Nemanja, I really appreciate you coming on. Enjoyed the chat. And as always, if you want to join thousands of B2B legends getting our lesser known B2B marketing tips, SEO ideas, case studies, and podcast updates, head over to breakingb2b.com and check out the newsletter. And with that, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one for more no BS B2B marketing tips to grow your business. Catch you soon.